Good afternoon. A warm welcome to one and all. Myself, Tharni from third year IT. There is a quote which says, education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. I'm very proud to welcome you all for the guest lecture on cybercrime and digital forensics. Thank you for joining with us today. To start off today's lecture, I would like to call energetic person Dr. Nalini ma'am to give welcome address. Over to you, ma'am.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Happy to welcome you all for the department guest lecture on cybercrime and digital forensics. It will be given by our faculty member, Mr. Vishal. We are happy to have Vishal here. Another important thing about Vishal is he's also our alumni. He's alumni of our department. He did his PG in our college and also UG in our college. We are happy to have our alumni as our resource person for the guest lecture. Welcome you, Vishal, for this guest lecture on digital forensics and cyber security, which is in need of the hour, right? Today, there are n number of cyber crimes are happening and digital frauds are happening. Many people, without knowing about this digital fraud, they are losing their money. Normal layman's, most of them, they lost their money through this online gaming and digital frauds, right? So these kind of lectures can make an awareness on digital forensics, how we have to be safe in the digital world, and what kind of crime can be happen in digital and cyber world, and how we should avoid all these things. This can be understand by the lecture of Mr. Vishal. I'm happy to have you here, Vishal, and I'd like to thank our founder chancellor, ACS AC Shanmugam sir, and our president, engineer ACS Arun Kumar sir, for the continuous support to achieve huge heights. For their continuous support only, we are handling and we are doing a number of activities in our university. Thank you, sir, for your continuous support. And I like to thank the event coordinator, Miss Nitya, who make this event a grand success. I'd like to invite all the participants, those who are attending online of this guest lecture, be attentive throughout the session. Throw your questions through the chat box. In between, you may have any question. You can have any question answer sessions, right? Be attentive through this session. Thank you. Thanks. Be interactive with the resource person. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It's a great pleasure for me to welcome and introduce our resource person for this session, Mr. M.A. Vishal, Assistant Professor, Department of Information Technology, Dr. MGR Educational and Research Institute. Today, we have a highly qualified and knowledgeable person with us to deliver the guest lecture on the topic cybercrime and digital forensics. Sir has completed his bachelor's degree in computer science from Dr. MGR Educational and Research Institute. and master's degree in information security and cyber forensics from Dr. MGR Educational Research Institute. Sir has participated in National Conference on Innovation Computing Techniques in 2018 and presented a paper on study on cryptography techniques and security. In 2019, Sir presented a paper on camouflage malware detection using machine learning approach. Sir is a certified Java programmer, Oracle database administrator, and digital marketer. Sir's area of interest is in web development, full stack development, machine learning and artificial intelligence, desktop or mobile iOS development. I'm sure that this afternoon is going to be very informative and beneficial for all of us listening to Mr. M.A. Vishal's lecture. On behalf of Department of IT and all the participants, I welcome you, sir.
Very good afternoon for everyone. So today we are going to see the various parts, including the cybercrime, digital forensics. So let's first see about what a cybercrime is. So a cybercrime is a crime involving computers and networks. So it is entirely a crime which happens on a particular network or which involves computers or other electronic devices through which a crime is being happened. Okay. Next, a computer may have been used in the execution of crime or it may be the target. So, for example, these type of crimes happen by using a particular computer device to attack a particular device to retrieve a particular information from the target device. So, when these type of crime occurs, it is considered as a cyber crime. So, what they are defining it as a cybercrime is any unlawful act where a computer or communication device or a computer network is used to commit or facilitate commission of a crime. So, for example, if a crime happens within a computer network or even if a particular device like a computer or a mobile is used to do a crime is also not considered as a particular cyber crime. Everything gets connected under a particular domain called cyber crime. So these are the various types of cyber crimes that occur in the current situations. So most of the criminal cyber crimes falls under the two main categories, which is the criminal activity that targets computers and the criminal activity that uses computers. So it may look similar, but there is a huge difference in these two types. So the criminal activities that target computers is, for example, if a resource or a data is available in a computer, which is stored in a particular computer, and the criminal activity is going to happen to reach and retrieve the information from that particular computer without the use of computers. So no networks will be involved in this type of criminal activity. So no networks or any other computer devices won't be involved in this types of criminal activity. So this is the type one. The second type is criminal activity that uses computers. So this is the type in which various mobile or computer devices are being used and these cyber crimes occur through a particular network. So everything is interconnected to a network and these crimes which includes data stealing or data manipulation, everything occurs through the use of computers and networks. So this is the second type of criminal activity in terms of cyber crimes. So these are, and to continue over that, a cybercrime that targets computers often involves malwares like virus. So in terms, first let's see about what the malware is. So malware is known as the malicious software. So for example, virus, worms, everything. There are various types of malwares that are available which are involved in cyber crimes. So everything comes under malware. So we are using a computer and using malwares to do such crimes is another part. And the next one is cybercrime that uses computers to commit other crimes may involve using computers to spread malware, illegal information, or illegal images. So, the first part, what we saw is we are targeting a computer in a particular cybercrime and they are using malicious software to retrieve or steal a particular data. This is the first one. Whereas the second one, what they are doing is they are using the computers as just a part of the crime, and they are using computers to do or spread illegal activities and illegal data which does not involve computer or any networks to do that. They are just using this to spread a illegal activity or a information. So this is the type 2. So these are two types of cyber crimes that are regularly happening in a environment. So let's see about what a cyber crime is. A cyber disable computers, steal data, or to breach computer system to launch additional attacks. So, for example, an attack in the sense the hacker or the crime criminals won't be having a particular access to that device or a network. So, in that case, as in that case, a particular happening has been done, and that is known as the it is known as the cyber attack. So, for example, so it is an attempt to disable computer, steal data, or use a breach computer system to launch additional attacks. The next one is a cyber attack is when an individual or organization deliberately and maliciously attempts to breach the information system of another individual or organization. So these type of attacks occur due to the uh, competition between more than one organization. So for example, two different organizations will be in a heavy competition to achieve a certain level of brand in the overall market. So, in that terms, intentional cyber attack will be initiated on the target organization to damage or to, to damage their own name to reduce the reputation of that other organization. So, this is the way in which they are also using cyber attack. So, the next is while there is usually an economical goal or some recent attacks show destruction of data as a goal. So either to publish a unwanted unwanted information unwanted information about other organization or to damage the data so that a particular progress can be stopped without being happened. So these are the various ways in which a cyber attack is implemented in the real world. Next, we will see about the various cyber attacks that are happening now. The first one is malware. So, in terms, malware is known as the malicious software. The term malware encompasses various types of attacks, including spyware, viruses, and worms. So, these are some of the types of malwares that are regularly being used by hackers or any cybercrime professionals. And malware uses a vulnerability to breach a network when a user clicks a planted dangerous link or email attachment. So this malware can be injected into the target victim computers in any of the sources. So these are some of the sources which includes either they can reach the victim through an email attachment or a particular link. So this is known as click. This is known as clickjacking or social engineering attacks. So these involve the ways in which reaching the victim through an email attachment. When the particular victim opens that email attachment, through that the malware can be injected into that victim's network or his system. So these are some of the types in which malware is being injected into the target system. So the malwares and the malicious files inside a computer can do the following activities. So it can deny access to the critical components of the network. So some of the functions of that victim's systems will be access denied. So these access and some of the files may be appear, some files may disappear due to the attack of the malware, and even some application can't be opened by the victim due to this particular malicious attack. Next is these type of malwares can obtain information by retrieving data from the hardware. So these piece of codes will work in a way that once this attack has been initiated by the victim by clicking or downloading the attachment in the email, so ever since that action has been performed by the victim, the malware will be initiated and it will start to retrieve various informations and credentials that has been stored by the user or the victim, and it will be starting to retrieve these data from the system and will be transferred to the hacker. So these are the various ways a malware can be used. So as you can see, these are the various types of malware that are being in use nowadays. So malware, worms, trojans, ransomwares, bots, adware, spywares, rootkits, fileless malware, malvertising. So these are the various types of malware that are implemented by the hackers to initiate and complete an attack on the victim computers. So let's see some of the types of malwares that are being used under in regular practice. So the first one, what everyone would have heard, is the virus. So these viruses, these files infect applications attaching themselves to the initialization sequence. So what happens is when a particular virus file is being placed in a target system, what it first of all does is it attaches itself to another application or a file that is available in the target system. Then only this virus will start to infect the other files that are available in the same system. This is how a virus works. So the virus replicates itself, infecting other code in the computer system. So it does not stand and thus simply collects the data as being a single file. Once it has been injected into the target system, it starts to replicate itself and creates n number of files in it. In the same way, n number of files will be generated, and this is how when virus attack happens in a system. So these generating viruses can also attach themselves to executable code or associate themselves with a file by creating a virus file. For example, when this particular virus is being attached to an executable code. So this is why each and every file you download from the internet has to be scanned before opening it in your own system. So there are websites that gives this feature to scan the files which you download, whether to check that particular file is infected by virus or any other malware. So once you complete a scan through those networks, then if you install or open any files that you download online is advisable. So what happens is, for example, if a virus is being attached to a particular executable code, so since you don't know that that particular virus is being attached to that code, for example, you will simply open that particular code to run a software or to install a particular software. So what happens is when you open that particular file, automatically the virus code will also be executed, and either the installation gets completed or not, without that particular information the virus will generate n number of replication of itself, and it will flood the entire system. So this continuously happens, and the files adjacent to it will also get, various files in the systems will also get affected by this virus, and the system will crash. And the next one is Trojans. So this is another type of malware that is available. So how this particular Trojan works is a program hiding inside a useful program with malicious purposes. So we don't know that this file is a malware. That is how it will hide in this particular normal file. So what happens is, unlike viruses, a Trojan does not replicate itself. Even when this Trojan file is executed, it won't replicate itself or flood the system by creating duplicates. Instead, what it does is it stays in it, and it will automatically establish a backdoor when the file is being executed, and it will provide a path through which the attackers can exploit your system, and through the network they can easily retrieve the various data that is available in your system through that generated backdoor. So this is how a Trojan works. So it does not create any duplicates of itself, but it can create a path called as the backdoor through which the attackers can easily exploit your system and retrieve the information that are available in it. So the next one is worms. Unlike viruses, they don't attack the host, being self-contained programs that propagate across networks and computers. So they're primarily installed through the email attachment or sending a copy of everyone in their email list. So they're commonly used to overload an email server and achieve a denial of service attack. So what happens is, so this type of viruses, the purpose of these viruses is to be sent online through various email attachments, and what happens is these files will be continuously generated in the email until the request is denied. So that is how a denial of service attack is implemented. So what happens is the files in the worms will be continuously be generated, and it will for example, the number of a particular bandwidth will be allocated in each and every network. So based on that only the number of files get being traveled through the network is found. So whenever these type of worms are initiated in an attack, what happens is it will overload a particular email server. So the n number of worms will be generated, and it will overload the particular bandwidth. Once the bandwidth is full, what happens is the performance of that particular email server or the services that is provided by that online party will be flooded, and the performance will be entirely affected. So next one, so as you know what a ransomware is, so it is a type of attack in which the attacker targets a particular system. So what type of system they will target is, they will analyze and target a system whose owner is wealthy, or they are wealthy, and what they will do is they will entirely lock the access of the system for that victim. So he cannot access his system until he pays a ransom that is being asked by that attacker. Unless this ransom hasn't paid by the victim, he cannot access it, thoroughly. So this is how a ransomware attack works. Next one is a spyware. So it is a type of program installed to collect information about users, their systems or browsing habits. So the purpose of this type of malware is to spy what a victim is being doing, and it can easily track the various activities that is being done by the victim. So this is the purpose of spyware. Once the spyware is being installed or installed in the particular victim device, the attacker can be in any particular location and he can access each and every each and every steps that is being done by the by the victim from a remote location. So this is the purpose of spyware. So the attacker can then use this information for blackmailing purpose or to download and install the malicious programs from the web. So entire actions and the procedures followed by the victim can be easily tracked by installing spyware in his target device. For example, if you install a spyware in any of his devices like a laptop or in a mobile device also, you can easily track his entire actions and habits. So these are some of the commonly used spywares. So already we saw about Trojans, and what is a keylogger is it is a, it is a type of a particular software which is being installed in the victim's computer. So what happens is once this software is being installed, the, the attacker can easily find the various keystrokes that a particular victim is using. For example, once you can easily track the strokes that is being done in my keyboard. So, for example, if I'm using a banking website and now I'm going to provide a particular secret credentials of my own. So, each and every key that I hit in my keyboard will be tracked easily by using these keyloggers. By using these, after once this data is being tracked, the attacker can easily download the file and he can see the various keystrokes that I did in that particular time. So having this particular time, having the data which I having the data which includes the keystrokes that I used in that particular time, he can easily reduce and find my password or any other credentials and secret information that I have. So it is one of the way in which hackers can easily get information regarding our keystrokes, and they can use it against us. So the next one is phishing attacks. So the phishing attacks are extremely common and involve sending mass amounts of fraudulent emails to unsuspecting users disguised as coming from a reliable source. So how these type of mails will come is the design and the way in which these mails are received will be similar to that of the original source. For example, mail is being received from a banking from a bank. For example, that template which is used by the attacker will be exactly same as that of the bank. So the people will rely on that link and they will do whatever instructions being given through that particular mail. For example, if there is a link to change a particular password of that user for his net banking or any other source, they'll be clicking it without thinking, because the entire template looks similar to that of their bank email. So this is how a phishing attacks work. So the fraudulent emails often have the appearance of being legitimate, but the link the recipient to the malicious file or script designed to grant attackers access for your device to control it or gather, recon, install malicious scripts and files. So the entire mail template will be similar to that of the legitimate one, but whereas the link through which the mail has been received, the mail ID through which you receive the mail will be a fraudulent one, and based on this, he can, once a link inside that mail or the attachment inside that mail has been downloaded, the attack can be easily initiated by the attacker from a remote location. So this is how a phishing attack works. As you can see, so the attacker sends an email to the victim. So an email is being sent from the attacker to the victim. What happens is the victim clicks on the email and goes to the phishing website. So he won't be directed to the target. He will be directed to the target website of the attacker. So there will be a huge difference between the legitimate website and the phishing website. It will be looking entirely same, but there will be a slight changes in the URL of the website. So without the knowledge of this, if the victim gives his credentials in this phishing website, then these data will be easily collected by the attacker. For example, if the phishing website is requesting for the victim's user ID and password, so he will be giving those credentials, and these data will be collected by the attacker, and he can easily use those credentials in the legitimate website to access your bank account. So these are the ways in which phishing attack works. And here are some of the three types of phishing attack. The first one is the spear phishing. It targets this attack targets a specific company or an individual. So what is the meaning of spear phishing is it specifically targets a single victim. So the attack is completely entirely directed towards that particular target. So this is known as a spear phishing. Whereas whaling, this is the type of attack which focuses the one of the most important person in the particular organization. So for example, the senior executives are a strong stakeholder who plays a vital role in that organization. So when one of the important members of an organization being targeted by a phishing attack, it is known as a whaling. And the next is the different and one of the most important type of phishing attack, which is farming. So it leverages DNS cache partitioning to the capture user credentials through fake login landing page. So it will create a fake landing page which is similar to phishing, but it is hard to identify. So these are the various differences between farming and phishing. So farming is very hard to identify, whereas the phishing is very easy to identify. Once you find a small changes, that is, once you find and identify a particular change that has been done in the particular template, you can easily find whether this link is legitimate or not in phishing attacks. Whereas it is very hard to find that in terms of the farming attack. And the phishing attack targets only one person at a time. And whereas in terms of the farming attack, it targets n number of people at the same time. And as we saw in phishing, either it will be sent as an email or a link will be sent to the website, link will be shared to the victim. This is how a phishing attack works. Whereas in terms of farming, a malicious code will be directly installed on the particular victim system. So it does not share any link or any email to the victim. Instead of that, it installs a malicious code directly in that particular victim system. And what happens is, after this code is being installed, it automatically redirects without the user's knowledge to clicking a link. Even if the user doesn't click a link, it will automatically redirect to the malicious page, and the code will be installed and the attack will be initiated by the attacker. So here, unless you click the link, the attack will not be activated. For example, if you receive a mail and you identify that this is not legitimate and it is trying to fish various data from you, and you leave that mail and you don't click the link in it. In that cases, the phishing attack won't be activated and no other data will be stolen from your site. Whereas, so to overcome that particular issue, attackers are using the farming attack, where the attack will be initiated automatically even if the victim is not clicking the particular link. So these are the key differences between farming and phishing. And the next one is man in the middle attacks. So this type of attack occurs when an attacker intercepts a two-party transaction. So what happens is the attacker won't target the victim end or any of the two ends. In this case, both the ends are victim of the particular attacker. So the attacker stays in the middle of a particular transaction and he will collect the information from both the ends. So for example, this is how a man in the middle attack works. So this is the user and he is accessing, for example, he is accessing a particular website through web. What the user thinks is he is directly accessing this website and a particular data transaction is being done between these two. But the attacker will join this particular network and will have a common connection with the user and the target web browser. So what happens is the data won't be flowing in this particular way. Instead of that, whatever the data user is entering in from his side, he will be giving the credentials to the attacker and the process will occur in the hidden way in which attacker can get entire access of his credentials and what are the actions he is going to do. But when the user won't have the knowledge that a man in the middle attack is being happening and his information is being passed through the attacker. So the next one is the denial of service attack. So the DOS attack works by flooding systems, servers, and networks with traffic to overload the resources and bandwidth. So the result is rendering the system unable to process and fulfill legitimate requests. So what happens here is, for example, a particular system will be regularly getting request and a response will be given to each and every request that is being coming in. So this is a regular process in which a particular system will be working. When a denial of service attack is being done in that particular network, what happens is the number of requests which is incoming to that network will increase from that particular system. So what happens is it saturates the system's resources with the goal of impeding responses to service requests. On the other hand, the DDoS attack is launched from several encrypted host machines. There are two types of denial of service attack. The first one is initiated from one particular system, whereas the DDoS is the distributed denial of service attack. So the attack will be initiated from more than one system. So this is the key difference between the denial of service and distributed denial of service attack. So this is how a denial of service attack works. What happens in the most common example, the denial of service attacks, an attacker uses a network of hijacked computers. So the hacker will initiate the attack through the computer which are already compromised by his attack. So through those machines, he will be continuously giving n number of requests to the target server. So this network is used to flood the target site with phony service requests, leaving no bandwidth for legitimate traffic. So each and every request and response will be done and implemented through the rec- available data traffic of that particular network. So once this data traffic is flooded with unwanted phony requests from this denial of service attack, what happens is the entire bandwidth will be used by this attacker. So what happens is thus the performance of the target server will be ultimately reduced and it cannot process the request and response at that time until this incoming unwanted request is being stopped. The entire performance of the target server will be compromised. So this is how a denial of service attack works. The next one is SQL injection. So this occurs on when an attacker inserts malicious code into a server using SQL language. So these type of attacks can be done only in the websites that are highly unprotected and very vulnerable to get attacked by any type of attacks. So nowadays each and every websites are having SSL certificate through which it is one of the way in which you are securing your website. So in most of the cases the websites won't be having these type of certificates to prevent it from these type of attacks. So in the cases, what happens is the attacker will submit a particular malicious code into these type of unprotected websites, comment or search box. So these are locations of the website in which a malicious code is being submitted by the attacker. And what happens is, what happens is this the query or the even the credentials if you are using, what happens is each and every data will be accepted and will be taken into the database and a verification will be done, then only the response will be given from the particular website. For example, the hacker identifies vulnerable SQL driven website and he is injecting a malicious SQL query in the input data. A query malicious query has been given here in this particular data field. What happens is, in the next step, the malicious SQL query is validated and the command is executed by the database. So instead of verifying, since it is unprotected, what happens is the SQL query is being validated. Once the validation is completed, it is executed by the database. Now what the hacker would have done is he would have requested access to the particular database. So since the query has been validated and executed, what happens is now the hacker will get entire access to the database. So now he can easily view the data that has been stored in the database and he can also alter the various records that are available in the database. Even when an SQL command uses a parameter, instead of inserting values directly, it can allow the backend to run malicious queries. So when an SQL command uses a parameter instead of inserting values, so by using an SQL command, what we are doing is either we have to either we'll be using the insert command or various commands in which the data is either inserted or retrieved. So instead of that, if uh, if a manual parameter is being inserted in the SQL query and submitted in that website, it can easily allow the code will be generated and executed, and by doing this, it can easily allow the backend to run malicious queries. So through one query or through one particular SQL query, you can access the backend and run n number of queries in the backend database to retrieve the information that has been stored in the database. So the next type of attack is the brute force attack. So the brute force attack uses a trial and error base to retrieve the login informations and even the encryption keys or to find the hidden web page. So if there is a website and I am not having any credentials to access that website, I don't be having any login details of my own. Instead of that, if I initiate a brute force attack, it will give various combinations of username and password until a successful attempt is being done. Until that, various combinations of credentials will be submitted and continuously it will be submitting until the correct combination is found. So this is how a brute force attack works. So these attacks are done by brute force, meaning they use excessive forceful attempts. So the number of attempts in which the username and password is being generated and implemented in that login page will be increasing one after the other. So, what I will be doing is through an automated tool, I will be collecting the various commonly used username and the password field data. Having that, I will automate a brute force attack. So what will happen is once this attack is being initiated, it will try each and every username and password that is available in the database in the login page of that website. So these are the things in which these are the methods you can follow to defend against a brute force attack. So increase your password length. So it is very important. So since if the length of your password is more, it will take n number of combinations that has to be done to find your password. If the number of characters that you have used in your password is very less, so the attacker can easily find your password with a simple brute force attack. So the time taken to crack your password will be very less, increasing the password complexity. So nowadays, each and every website are requesting the password to be generated in a way that you give a capital letter, a small letter, a symbol, everything. So why they're asking is this: if you give this type of password, it will be very hard and complex to crack it. Another way to prevent your website from this type of brute force attack is to limit the login attempts. So for example, if I am a user who is going to log in to this website, if so that particular administrator of that website to restrict me to 2 login attempts or 3 login attempts. So if this type of restriction is not given, a brute force attack can be easily implemented, and even though it may be time consuming to find the exact password match, the the hacker can wait until a particular match is being found. So by implementing a number of login attempts, a user can do in that website can restrict the brute force attack. And the next one is implementing captcha. So even though the brute force attack is initiated, and if the hacker has found the credentials, then a captcha will be given to be completed to complete the login process. So this also can prevent the brute force attack. And the last one is using multi-factor authentication. Even though the password would have been found by the attacker and been given in that authentication page, if you use multi-factor authentication, you will be given a notification that this particular login attempt has been done, and the next step of verification will be coming to you. So by this, you can restrict the brute force attack. Next, we'll see about what a digital forensics is. So now we have seen about the various attacks and the cyber crimes that in happen nowadays. Now we are going to see about what digital forensics is. So digital forensics is defined as the process of preservation, identification, extraction and documentation of computer evidence which can be used by the court of law. So it is a science of finding evidence from digital media like computer, mobile or server or also a network. So these are the procedures that a cyber forensics team or a digital forensics team will be doing after a crime, after a digital crime has been occurred. So the objective of a digital forensics is to help to recover, analyze, and preserve computer and related materials in such a manner that it helps the investigation agency to present them as evidence in the court of law. So, for example, a data theft has been happened in an organization. Uh, what happens is a digital forensics team will be involved once a complaint has been filed, and this team will investigate and analyze the surroundings, and they will try to recover the various hard drives or any other storage platforms, storage devices that are available in that particular crime scene. So after retrieving these type of devices, they will work on it and do the forensics procedures. So it helps to postulate the motive behind the crime and identity of the main culprit. Next is designing procedures that at a suspected crime scene, which helps to ensure that the digital evidence obtained is not corrupted. So once you obtain a digital evidence in form of a storage device or anything, you should not directly directly initiate the investigation process in the particular collect device. Next one is the data acquisition and duplication. Recovering deleted files and deleted partitions from digital media to extract evidence and validate them. For example, a digital crime has been done and the attacker has deleted the various data that is available in the storage device. So these data can be recovered. The files that has been deleted by the attacker can be recovered from that particular hard drive using applications and hardwares. So it helps you to identify the evidence quickly and also allows you to estimate the potential impact of the malicious activity on the victim. And producing a computer forensics report which offers a complete report on the investigation process. So a computer forensics report should be generated by the particular digital forensics team. Once they have gained access to the hard disk or any other devices in the crime scene, each and everything has to be noted and documented correctly, including the timestamp. So when the device was collected, how it was isolated, how how a digital copy of it was taken, and in which the investigation process was done. Each and everything has to be completely created as a computer forensics report, and preserving the evidence by following chain of custody. So once the evidence has been retrieved from the crime scene, it has to be stored stored in an isolated location, and the persons should not be frequently accessing it because it is the only evidence that is available and it should not be tampered by anyone. So that is why even the computer forensics teams actually will work on the digital copy of the obtained evidence devices. So these are the five processes that are involved in digital forensics, which include identification, preservation, analysis, documentation, and presentation. So let's see about what identification is. So it is the first step in the forensic process, and the identification process mainly includes things like what evidence is present, where it is stored, and how it is stored. Once the forensics team enters into the crime scene, what they do is they identify the various devices. They would identify the particular device in which the crime has happened, and what are all the evidence that can be collected from that particular system that has to be identified first, then where it has to be stored and how it has to be stored. For example, if a data is being obtained as an evidence, in that case, it has to be, you have to make sure where it is stored in the digital forensics team's device, and in how it is being stored, in which format that file is being stored in that team. So the storage devices in which these type of identified informations can be stored is in the personal computer or mobile phones, etc. So these are the various devices in which the identified information can be stored for further verifications. Next one is to preserve the obtained evidence. So what they are telling here is the obtained evidence should not be accessed by all members of the particular team. So first of all, what you have to do is to isolate the obtained evidential data. So the data is isolated, secured, and preserved in a separate location. So it includes preventing people from using the digital evidence so that the digital evidence is not tampered. So the entire investigation will also occur in the unique data, which I mean not the unique data. So the copy of the data that you have obtained from the evidence data. The investigation will be entirely done in the copy of the digital data that you have obtained. After preserving the original evidence data in isolated way, now by having the copy of the data, you can begin the analysis phase. So in this step, the investigation agents reconstruct the fragments of data and draw the conclusion based on the evidence found. So what we will do is the data will be available in terms of fragments or fragments. So fragments in the sense it is a type in which the data is being splitted. Whereas in the network, you would have seen that the data while traveling through a network will be splitted in terms of data packets. Similarly, each and every data that is being stored can also be splitted in terms of fragments. So in this analysis phase, the investigation agent will reconstruct the retrieved data fragments and will create the data. So this is how the evidence can be retrieved from the digital copy of the drive that have been found in the crime scene. So it may take n number of iterations of examinations to support the specific crime theory. So number of iterations has to be done to improve the quality of the evidence that you have obtained, and it has to be you have to make sure that this evidence will support the particular case in the right way. So the next one is documentation. So in this process, a record of all the visible data must be created. Each and every data and each and every procedures, each and every steps that has been followed from the scratch of this particular case has to be recorded, and entire visible data has been created, including all these informations. So it helps in recreating the crime scene and reviewing it. So even after the particular crime scene has ended and the investigation of the particular crime scene has ended, this documentation will be help in a, this documentation has to be done in a way that by simply viewing these data and timestamps, you can easily recreate the entire crime scene and you can make a review of it. In such way, the documentation has to be done. So it involves proper documentation of the crime scene along with photographing, sketching, and crime scene mapping. Entire related data has to be collected and in a, stored in a particular way that it can be accessed. So the next step is presentation. So now we have analyzed the crime scene and we have identified a crime scene. We have analyzed the evidence that we have obtained from the crime scene. Then we have documentation being prepared based on the various evidential actions that you have taken in the crime scene. And after having the entire collection of data regarding that particular crime scene, then the last step is to do a presentation. So the process of summarization and explanation of conclusion is done. So after obtaining the informations, you can present the evidences that you have collected in a way that you can come to a conclusion and find the hacker or whatever conclusion you are coming to it. You can entirely do these procedures one after the other and create an entire presentation based on it. However, it should be written in a layperson's terms. So these final presentations that you are going to show to the entire world should be in a layman's term so that everyone can get a clear understanding regarding that case. It should not be too more technical and various technical terms should not be involved while creating this final presentation. Whereas it should be easy for everyone to understand what has happened in that particular crime scene. So in this way, we are going to see about forensic imaging and how to create a forensic image. So forensic imaging is defined as the process and tools used in copying and electronic media such as a hard disk drive for conducting investigations and gathering evidences that will be presentable in law of court. So it is a process in which the entire media data that is available in the evidence hard disk can be easily imaged and a data new data can be created using a forensic image technique. So this is the same thing that has to be involved during the analysis phase, where you must not work directly on the obtained evidence hard drive, whereas you have to create a copy or an image of that available hard disk evidence and you have to work in that particular image of the hard disk. So this copy not only includes files that are visible to the operating system, but every bit of data, every sector, partitions, files, folders, master boot records, deleted files, and unallocated spaces can be seen using this forensic image. So this image, what we are referring here, is an identical copy of all the drive structures and contents that has been stored in that hard disk. Further, a forensic image can be backed up and tested on without damaging the original copy. So this is the main purpose of taking a forensic image of the update evidence hard disk. So either you need not to take a backup or test on the obtained evidence. Instead, you can work on the digital copy which you have taken through forensic imaging. So why do you need a forensic image to work in digital forensics? When you suspect a custodian of deleting or altering the files, a complete forensic image will allow you to recover deleted files. So, for example, if that evidence hard disk has been under custody of a particular individual, and if you suspect that that individual has deleted the evidential data that has been available in that hard disk, you can do forensic imaging to retrieve the deleted data from that storage device. So the imaging of random access memory can also be enabled by using live imaging. So the data which is being stored in the RAM is always the temporary memory. So if you use the imaging correctly, and if you do the entire process correctly, you can retrieve those temporary data that has been stored and accessed through the random access memory. So using this process, you can do live imaging of the random access memory, and you can also bypass the encryption systems. For example, if a device is password protected, and by using these forensic imaging tools, you can easily bypass those encryptions or password protected files, and you can retrieve the informations. So this is one of the software that is available online, which is provided by Access Data Group. So FTK Imager. So this is the software that is used to take forensic images. So it is a tool for creating disk images, and it is free to use. It's entirely free, and you can use this by downloading this through this particular website, and you can use those FTK imaging tool in your machine. So by using this software, you can create forensic images or copies of the local hard drives or any other devices without making changes in the original evidence. So the evidence obtained by the digital forensics team can be in any of those forms. Either it can be a hard drive or a floppy or anything. So using this tool, you can easily make a forensics image copy of any of those available storage devices. So what you should do is, you can mount an image. You can also mount an image for the read-only view, and that will also let you view the contents and forensic images exactly that how the user saw in the original drive. So there will be a change in a way that we are going to view the evidence. So it will be entirely almost same as that of the original devices, and the data will be present in the same way that it was available in the original hard drive. So there will be a huge difference in the displaying of the data in terms of the original device and the image file. So you can export the data or the folders that is available from this forensic images. Instead of accessing the evidence device, you can easily export a file or a folder from this forensic image that you took itself. So how can you take a forensic image of a hard drive? So to do that thing, you have two particular requirements that has to be done. First you need this particular software and a hardware that you would like to create an image of. So a hard drive which is available in your hand has to be used to retrieve or make a forensic image of the data available in it using this website. So first you have to install this particular software on your machine. Next, this simply you have to just open the software, and from this step you can, if you follow from this step, you can easily take a copy of those data. So first of all, you have to connect this hard disk that you have to this system in which this software has been installed. And after doing that, open when you open this particular application, when you go to file, but this option will be available, add evidence item. So once you click this option, you can select the hard drive which you have connected as the evidential item. So after that, a pop-up window that will ask for you to select the source of the evidence. A new window will be popped up after you select the source of the evidence done. So here you'll be selecting the source of the evidence, right? And so this source should target the external drive that you have connected to this system. If you have connected a physical hard drive to the computer that you are using, then you will select a physical drive. So this pop-up will be available. Once you complete the first step, you will be requested to select the source that you have been connected to the system. Either it is a logical drive or an image file or a physical drive. For this instance, a physical drive has been connected and that option is selected. Now what happens is you can now since the device has been connected successfully to this system, now we are going to take the forensic image. So you can just select right click on the physical drive and you can export the entire image of the physical drive by selecting this export disk image option. So after naming the particular file that you want to export, the data will be exported from that connected hard drive to the image file. So the image file will be created from the various data that is being available in that hard drive. So the once you choose the destination in which your exported image has to be stored, and you have to name that particular image. Since the since the hard drive has been detected and visible in the software, either you can remove the evidence item or you can do a verification check or you can export this image. So if you give this option, the entire data that has been stored in that hard disk which is being connected will be exported as a disk image. The image file of the data that has been stored in that file will be exported. So this is how we can and take a complete evidence from the retrieved hard drive from the crime scene.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for such a knowledgeable session. Participants, if you have any queries, you can post it in the chat now. Feedback link is posted in the chat box, so kindly fill it. Sir,
So,
there is a question that what is MD5 in the rainbow table?
so MD5 is a type of hashing algorithm that is being to um, used to encrypt the various data. So what happens is, for example, in terms of cryptography, we are going to hide a particular data using various algorithms. So the plain text is converted into a ciphertext. So this type of algorithm has been used. So rainbow table is a type of a reference table that is used to encrypt the various informations using the MD5 algorithm. So what are the
Sir, there is
others?
another question. What are the various modes or manners of committing cybercrime?
You see, it can be committed through any way. So now everything is done through the internet, and each and every data can be accessed, or even the transactions that we do is everything is online. So it is a wide platform through which various cyber crimes nowadays happen. So it is one of the primary mode. The internet is one of the primary mode through which each and every type of cyber crime is being done. And there is no any manners in which cybercrime is committed. So whatever you do, it is entirely offensive. So even though even though you know these type of hacking methods, it's better to do valid courses and to be certified in a way that you are eligible to do such uh, eligible to do such practices in a specific requested crime scene. Unless having those particular informations regarding or particular designation or certifications through which you can do a crime. Unless you don't have this, it is entirely offensive.
Sir, there is another question. What is the difference between vulnerability assessment and penetrating testing?
Yeah. So vulnerability assessment is, for example, a victim is the person who is vulnerable to get attacked. So to assess the various points through which a target system is vulnerable, we can find it through the various by implementing such attacks that is being done by the attacker. You can be certified persons will do such attacks in the system to check the various ways in which the target system is vulnerable to be attacked. So this is known as vulnerability assessment, and the method in which the network can be tested is the penetration testing. So to an extent in which uh, to the extent in which the network can be tested whether it is secure or vulnerable to get attacked through any of the attack is known as the penetration testing.
Sir, the next question is what problems does cybercrime cause?
That depends on the crime that is being done by the attacker. So, in most of the cases, these type of crimes are done either for money or any other personal vengeance. So, there are other types of attackers who does it for fun. So, either way, it ends up to be a cybercrime.
Next question is what is the trace route and the uses of trace route, sir?
So, trace route is the way of tracking the path through which the data has been traveling through the network. So the tracing can be done through various tools such as Nmap and Wireshark. So these are the various tools that are available to track the entire network, including the data packets data packets and the various informations that we can get about the particular network.
What is webjacking, sir?
So it is a way in which, so for example, we saw about clickjacking. So the various links that is being given by the attacker, and those when the victim clicks those particular link, and these links are being sent through email. Whereas webjacking in the sense, these links will directly link them to a particular website, and through that website, for example, a layman victim will give various informations in that website. This is one of the part of webjacking.
The next question is, shall we track attackers, those who use VPN and dark web, and how, sir?
So this is one of the difficult part in which these type of attacks, generally most of the attacks that we saw today cannot be easily tracked by us. So either you have to be a professional so that you can analyze and you know how an attack is being done, how it can be tracked. Either way, by using VPN, you can only prevent from showing your IP, whereas it can be easily tracked.
Next is, how can we find that our system is hacked or not, sir?
So that's what I'm saying again. So unless you know, unless you have a particular knowledge regarding each and every attack, and you have to make sure whether you have to make sure that your entire system and network is secure. So you have to improve the securities in various ways in which you can prevent your own system from being attacked. So there is that. So finding finding whether your system is being hacked or not, it is very difficult actually. Only thing that you can easily do is to prevent your system from protecting your network from unwanted data packets by installing a very good firewall and using any antivirus systems to prevent your own system. That is very much enough to prevent. If you do these steps clearly, then there is a lot of ways in which you can prevent a hacker from hacking your computer.
Block technology is hackable or not, and what is the reason behind it, sir?
So why a blockchain has to be attacked? So it is a particular way in which the data is being separated in terms of blocks, and it is entirely different from this. Okay, it is based on cryptocurrencies and etc. Whereas this is we are speaking about cyber security.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for patiently answering all the questions, sir. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
such a knowledgeable session.
Thank you.
It's a great honor and privilege to propose the vote of thanks on this occasion. Let me first start with thanking the Almighty God for making this series a resounding success. Then I thank our resource person, Mr. Vishal sir, for the great session. Thank you, sir, for such a knowledgeable and enlightening session, which would surely brought amazing transformation in students. It's my pleasure to thank our honorable and dynamic president, Engineering ACS Arun Kumar sir, who has been a great continuous support system and always encourages us to take a step forward and stay ahead. I also thank our Vice Chancellor, Dr. S. Geeta Lakshmi ma'am, Register DCB Palnivel sir, Additional Register Dr. VISHAL sir, and Dean Engineering and Technology Dr. Etiraj sir for their guidance and encouragement in all our efforts. My heartfelt thanks to my head of the department and my staffs who worked hard to ensure that this event becomes a milestone. My special thanks to our students who actively participated. Once again, I thank you all for spending your precious time. Thank you all.